Welcome, everyone, to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm excited and grateful to welcome back, to another conversation, but officially, first time on the podcast, Michael Warszawski. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you. I think you're the only one who pronounces my name correctly.
Well, because I'm Polish, so it works out, and it's so fascinating because Warszawa, which is where my father is born, and my mom 45 minutes just outside of it. It's a perfect name, Warszawski. So it's like, Warszawski, it's amazing. So it's
Yes,
interesting, the synchronicities.
absolutely.
So for those who don't know you, is it okay if I just quickly introduce you, just to highlight a little bit about your background?
Please do.
Amazing. So Michael is founder and chief executive officer of CWM Partners. He served as a partner of a $3.5 billion multifamily office and as a COO or CEO, my apologies, of a $10 billion private bank. Now, these are, although high numbers, I really think there's a lot more depth to the man, and you'll discover that really over the course of our hour together. He's been founder of all, the Citibank family office. He's established direct investment advisory and asset management and trust businesses in US, UK, Ireland, Jersey, Luxembourg, earned degrees from MIT and Columbia University, CFA chart holder, and we can talk about all the amazing things with terms of governance, with regards to the chair on the Manhattan Gold chapter at the YPO, Tiger 21 group chair, and a board member of WISE, which this actually really excites me the most, to be honest, which educates high school students and victims of domestic abuse in financial literacy.
Yes.
This is beautiful, my brother, and I just want to thank you again for the devotion of your internal world and the ability to really come together to show up like this in the external world. I just really want to acknowledge that, because I know the development that it takes to create that. So thank you for being here. I'm really grateful.
Thank you for the opportunity, Eric. It's great to be with you and with your special community.
So, I always ask, the first question is like our experience. It comes to or our why, our big purpose. It comes from our experience. It comes from something that deep down inside of ourselves, is burning desire and passion. And most people, they learn to kind of forget about that or push that to the side. And then there's a lot of the greats that choose to follow that inner wisdom, that inner desire, that inner knowing, like yourself, that choose to kind of really step into it and move forward with passion and devotion. So, but there is a unique time or opportunity in our life where there's a breaking point that we discover that. And I'm curious, when was that, and what started you on this path, this journey of really wanting to kind of serve at a greater level and focus on where you have been headed over the last decades?
Thank you, Eric. It's a question that developed over time. I'm not one of those people who always knew what they wanted to do and what my career would be. But I did have open eyes and open ears, and I'm a lifelong learner, and I enjoy the learning process, and I enjoy meeting people and hearing their stories. And think of myself, if I have one skill, it's that I'm a good listener. So it's unusual for me to do a podcast because I'm usually listening and not speaking. Uh, but really, my focus is my health, my family, my friends, and trying to leave the world a little bit better than I found it. In the old Jewish wisdom, it's called tikkun olam, heal the world. What can I learn, and how can I turn that learning into something that's valuable for my clients and for my community and for my family through action and through making better decisions? and through listening to each other better.
Where did this come from, brother? Why this curiosity?
I think it's a lifelong journey, Eric, and my journey, I would say, has been one from IQ to EQ. If you want to trace the path, I was always very analytical. I enjoyed math, I enjoyed science, I enjoyed computers, and I was more of an introvert in high school, let's say. And I had a great experience the last couple of years in high school and college. I always had a very supportive and loving family behind me, and I think that's a big part of it. They encouraged me to stand on my own feet, and at the same time told me they would always be behind them. So I always felt wind in my sails, and I could explore. I could explore new relationships and new topics. And I think the journey towards EQ, from IQ to EQ, towards more emotional intelligence, happens naturally if you're open to it, because you wind up taking more senior management positions. You wind up hiring people, trying to evaluate who's a good hire. Letting people go when the company is not the right fit for them. You wind up marrying and raising a family and being involved in your family and in your community and in your charity and making that emotional intelligence part of your learning journey and part of something that's becoming more explicit. So I think it's
Hmm.
been gradual. I don't think there's been a magical moment.
This is a beautiful way to really tap into, from what I'm hearing, is what happens like as youth in the household will also then illuminate how our society is really highlighted.
Yes.
And I hear, because I agree, I really feel, because of my parents, I've been able to really move forward fast, their support, and it gives us a lot more strength. And so as you've developed your social, your human capital, your intellectual capital, your spiritual capital, and ultimately your financial capital, these 5 Ds or these 5 virtues of capital that is spoken by Jay Hughes, by this amazing book you suggested to me. Uh, I am curious, what was it like when because this IQ, EQ, this intellectual, which is often told us in society that that's the most important thing, right? When it comes to really bringing that intelligence to everything that we do. Over the course of my experience as well, it's been about like this listening, like you're suggesting. And so was it something that was coming from society that encouraged you to really strengthen in those virtues of family and moving forward, to be able to hold an energy that others can feel safe around you, and to be able to actually feel heard, to feel seen, to feel like they can express to you? And what did you notice in the abilities for people to really grow around you as a result of this listening?
So I'll share with you two experiences that I think
Please.
really reinforced my journey towards being a better listener. The first is music. So
Mm.
I've been a musician and a choral singer since high school. And the magic of a group of 50 or 100 people singing the same music together, but in different parts, in harmony and in counterpoint, is only achievable when you're following the same score. You could be interpreting it differently. You could be adding your own perspective, your own insight, your own emotion. Your conductor is a big part of that, and you as a group and the ethics of your group are part of that. But you need to make the music together for it to sound amazing. So you're not only adding your voice, you're listening to the other voices and you're making sure that you're balancing their voices and your voices so that they fit perfectly together. Because one wrong note, one person coming in at the wrong time or staying too late or singing off key makes a huge difference to the quality and to the strength of the whole experience. So part of my dream is, can we all listen to each other the way that a group of professional musicians or even amateur musicians listen to each other and create this synergy together, of the addition of multiple voices being so much greater, being multiplied in terms of its impact, its ability to uplift, to inspire, and to take the group to the next level. The other thing that I'll say is it's not all about harmony. Good
Mm,
music, good music goes through episodes of dissonance, of
mm.
music that is so where one voice is singing against the other one. It's called counterpoint or dissonance. And there's periods of dissonance and there's periods of resolution into harmony. And this is life as well. This is business, this is family, right? We are not all singing in harmony all the time. The music is taking us through various stages, and the dissonance, the counterpoint, the argument, the discussion brings us forward as long as we have the skills and the patience to resolve it into the next period of harmony.
Profound, profound. And most people, I would say, are not taught this areas of recognizing this thoughtful disagreement or this dissonance to then figure out a better or even more empowering solution that allows for greater cultivation. And I imagine, like, this is beautiful, the way that you were able to really picture it and communicate it with the harmonics of music. And I imagine that this is like really resonating for most people that are listening, because for me it does. And having that awareness of paying attention to what's going on around you, and then being able to actually listen to what this disagreement, and by the way, this happens in some of our advisory meetings or board meetings. And I imagine that you as a chair have to um, utilize this conductor ability to be able to really cultivate this dissonance, this thoughtful disagreement, to create that closer um, resonance for future opportunities and future music.
Absolutely. And I'll share with you a second experience or journey. When I was in Switzerland as a CEO of a bank there, I joined the Young Presidents Organization, which is a peer group designed for leaders who are too young to know what they're doing. We are all either CEOs or chairs or presidents of complex organizations managing at least 100 people. So there's some level of complexity. And we're honestly and transparently too young to know what we're doing and how to balance the needs of our businesses, our clients, our shareholders, our families, and our own needs, and even to be self-aware of what our own needs are. And
Wow.
and there's a process that we're taught to hold forum meetings with 8 to 12 members who are the same members, and it's a monthly 4-hour structured meeting. And we are taught best practices on how to listen to each other and even to listen to our own voice, right? We'll bring an update to the group and say, what energized me this month? What depleted my energy this past 30 days? What am I looking forward to with some fear or with some joy? And even this process of introspection and soul searching is not something we're used to. A lot of highly accomplished people tend to suppress anything that's on their mind and that's disturbing them, and even their joy. They don't want to appear to be showing off. And at the same time, they don't want to necessarily take their burdens and put them on the shoulders of their friends and their family, the members that can help them the most. So we learn both to do the introspection, to
Wow.
share, but more importantly, because we're a group of 10 people, we're spending most of the time in that meeting listening carefully to each other and seeing where can I learn something from this other person, and where can I help the person by sharing an experience that I've had, and what I considered at the time when I was in their situation. What decision did I make, and what was the impact on me to help them, to offer them that gift of a shared experience to see how we can help them with their next step. And I realized during those meetings that those were really special meetings because it's very unusual that you come to a meeting where the other people in the room are coming to listen.
Mm.
Most of the time, people come to meetings to speak, and they're not spending time listening to each other, even when they're quiet. They're preparing their answer of what they're going to say next. They're not listening. And it's natural, it's human. I'm not blaming, I'm not complaining. It's just the normal process of what happens. So being a chair in Tiger 21, and I still remain a moderator of a YPO forum, gives me an opportunity to say, look, this meeting's going to be different. This meeting is much less about speaking. There's some speaking, and much more about listening. And we have some tools that we offer for listening. We'll take a notepad and we'll take a pen. And if we have an idea of something we want to say, we won't keep it in our head. We'll write it down so that our mind is now available to fully listen to what you, Eric, are saying. Some of your listeners, and you might know the Columbia professor, Simon Sinek, and he has a nice little clip in one of his videos about listening. He said, look, we have talk shows, we don't have listen shows. We have peace talks, we don't have peace listens. So listening, if there's one thing that I've learned, and by the way, I'm not very a patient person. I like efficiency. So I have to really control myself to be a good listener. And I have to help coach other people in a gentle but firm way so that they can be good listeners, even within my own family and within the families of my clients. And then we can make music together because we're listening to each other.
Wow. I find what you're sharing right now such a beautiful way of actually what's currently happening. You know, like we're going into some pretty major changes on a global scale. And I find that we can listen more to each other, where in the past, like you said, Simon Sinek and many others have said that, you know, there's always just about sharing one person's opinion or a couple people's opinion based off of limits versus getting this curiosity. And the other day, I was sharing with someone that innocence is like a key component of this curiosity, of being willing to not just hold an energy of space, but also to hold that space of innocence and grace so that as a result, people feel even more safe to come forward to mirror that. And I imagine, you know, I'd love for you to share how at Tiger 21 or because I imagine at YPO, you know, these youthful members or individuals that are learning are
Yeah.
showing up with that type of innocence, right? And that type of uncertainty and looking for certainty. And is that very similar in terms of Tiger 21? Or do they need to kind of get molded or broken down into allowing that space of innocence to come through before they kind of get into the depths of themselves? So what I'm asking is, do they need to do that inner kind of curiosity first to feel safe, to feel like they can express themselves, to feel certain that their voice matters? Or do they already come in because of their experience like that?
Okay, so there's a few parts to that question, Eric. So Tiger 21, just for those who don't know,
Yes,
it's
my
a
apologies.
peer group community of 1,400 members in the US, Canada, UK, Switzerland, and a couple of other locations that are starting up. And our goal is to be in 60 communities around the world where our members, who are typically entrepreneurs, who have either exited one or more businesses or they've reached a point in their professional trajectory where they're moving from this laser focus of dedicating all of their time to building their business to opening up more to the other possibilities and challenges. You know, once the business is in a place where they're comfortable that it's sustainable in the way that they want it to be. Now they're looking at the rainbow of possibilities, right? You imagine this laser light hitting a prism, right? And that's the inflection point. We say, okay, now I'm ready to engage with the world in a different way. And what do I want that different way to be? What does 2.0 look like for me, or 3.0 or 4.0, wherever they are in their entrepreneurial journey? And where is the community of people that are asking themselves that same question and that can connect with me? There's a lot of people that want to connect with them and sell them products, financial products and services and legal products and insurance products and things like that. They don't want that. They want a peer group, people who are in a similar situation like them, that they could discuss these great opportunities and these great challenges in front of them. How do I raise a family, from a position of wealth? I didn't grow up that way. What are the questions that I can ask? And listening and being vulnerable and listening to other people and being willing to dig down and share is a big part of that. And just as a small example, a member will be preparing, they consider this group, it's a monthly structured meeting, in some ways similar, in some ways different to a YPO forum meeting. And a member will once a year have an opportunity to present their questions to their personal board of directors in a very structured way, and they'll be coached by me as their chair. And a member will ask me, as an example, my question is, what should I do to double my wealth in the next N years, right? Whatever N is for them. And if I'm a good listener, I'm not going to answer. I'm going to ask a good question, an open-ended question. For example, Eric, what's your definition of wealth? And you just gave me Jay Hughes's definition, which is a beautiful definition, but I won't give them that definition. Let's see what they say, right? Jay Hughes's definition thinks about human capital. Are the human beings in my family thriving? Intellectual capital. How am I preserving and growing the knowledge that my family's been accumulating so I can pass it to the next generations? And do they even want that, right? And how do I engage them in that conversation? The social capital, spiritual capital, etc. One of the members said to me very simply, his own definition was health first. How do I take care of my health so that the next N years can be the best years that they can be? How do I take care of my family? That's the next priority. And then financial capital. It usually comes somewhere in the last place when families really think about what does wealth mean for them. But sometimes if you ask the question, you help the person, whether they're a member of Tiger 21 or just a friend like you, Eric, you help the person take some of their values that are implicit to them and kind of raise them to the surface and become more explicit so that they can feel more connected to their own values, and they can help articulate their values even to the close people around them. And what you'll find in a family, is if I have 5 or 10 values that are very important for me and that help guide my life and my decisions, some of them will overlap with my family members, but some of them will be different. And how do we use those overlaps to strengthen the family, but also recognize, that a spouse or a sibling or a child may have some of their own values that are not identical to mine, and how can I support them and help them to thrive in that context? And how can we support each other?
This is for me extremely educational, by the way, because the more that I'm discovering experiences with new partners and new ways of operating, and that where the stakes are getting higher and meaning a lot more responsible, right? Even more
Yes.
responsible. It allows me from internally feeling that responsibility to now recognizing it in my current experience of life. And so it really requires what I'm feeling, a layer of knowing that I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and allowing the friends and partners and family to know that I don't know, to share where I feel really comfortable and strong, and also knowing that I'm doing my best with that level of expertise, giving that space of openness so that I'm ready to receive.
Yes. And it's very important, you know, to kind of demonstrate some vulnerability in order to grow, and also in order to encourage the people around you to grow. Because
Yeah.
if someone admires you, Eric, and you're a very admirable, accomplished person, but at the same time they understand that you've made your mistakes and you've fallen down and you've picked yourself up, and you've shown some grit and some resilience, they are more likely to succeed on their path, right? Because the path to success is full of stumbling and tripping and falling and picking ourselves up. So I think we need to share not only our successes, but also our challenges, our mistakes, and some very practical things. You know, we've made, at the end of it all, the financial capital of the family supports the other types of capital. We've made investment mistakes. We've made tax mistakes. We've made planning mistakes from a legal perspective. And we've learned over time that if we build kind of this team of professionals
Yes.
that are really good at what they do, whether it's on the investment side or on the tax side or on the legal side in terms of planning or insurance, or all these topics that help protect and grow the financial capital that supports the more important areas of the family's capital, the human capital, intellectual capital, et cetera. If we build the right team, if we coordinate the work of that team, it gets very practical. And then if you share your mistakes with, let's say, your kids who are going to manage that, and we can talk about business mistakes as well. If they're going to manage a family business or a family portfolio going forward, they will be less intimidated and more likely to say, okay, you know, I can learn, I can make some small mistakes, I can pick myself up, I can move forward from there, just like the person I admire or the people I admire did. By the way, there's a concept of a fiduciary that is
Hmm.
probably another technical concept that's important to talk about if we have time later.
I would love to maybe just bring that up right now, real quick, since it's coming up in the present moment in terms of the fiduciary, and then really helping people understand their responsibility when it comes to bringing that awareness to those that may not know. I think this is
Sure.
I think this is a really important topic uh, that can bridge us actually going into the business scenario of allowing our uh, leadership from within to then amplify in terms of the family enterprise or family office, or any business experience that would be required from cultivating these multifamily offices, private equity, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. So the financial services industry, according to the most recent, trust barometer that's put out by the Edelman Company, is the second least trusted industry in the country, in the US. The only industry that's trusted less than the financial services industry is social media.
Wow.
So financial services, where I've spent 3 decades of my career, um, is essentially a case of a few good people inside a really bad system. Why is it a bad system? And there's still good people inside it. Why is it a bad system? Because the priorities are upside down, right? The first priority of a financial services professional is their own salary and raise and bonus, and maybe that of their boss and their team. The second priority, it's a highly regulated industry, so they have to do a lot of compliance work and a lot of documentation. The third priority is they need to create a good return for their shareholders. These are all logical priorities, but it means that making sure their clients get good outcomes is usually, not in every case, but usually the fourth priority. And I would guess it's 90% of the cases, based on what I've seen and experienced. And one of the reasons is that they are not designed to be financial fiduciaries. They are designed to be essentially business counterparts where there's a contract between two entities or two persons that are assumed to be equal in knowledge, and it's buyer beware. If you sign the contract, you accept all the conditions, which may include hidden fees, which may include products that, even though they might be suitable for you, might be more expensive than products you can find somewhere else, and they're not required to give you the best advice for you. A fiduciary relationship is a completely different legal and moral relationship. It means as a fiduciary is like a patient and a doctor relationship, or like a trustee and a beneficiary relationship, or a board member's relationship to their shareholder. It assumes that there is a person, the fiduciary, who has additional knowledge that the person that they're advising does not have, and it puts on them a higher level of standard, legal standard, moral standard, and a higher level of legal liability than you would in a like-to-like relationship, the way most financial relationships work. So it means I need to put, as a fiduciary, which I've been for all of my career, and more formally since 2013, when I could set up my own company and create it as a fiduciary in all aspects, right? Because most of the financial firms are not set up that way. But I've been that way, and it means I need to put my client's interests ahead of my own and ahead of the interests of my firm at all times, not just when I'm selling a specific type of product, or, not just on Tuesdays. So I think that's a very important element for clients to understand. There is a group that I recommend your community checks out in the States called the Institute for the Fiduciary Standard. We've developed 10 best practices for fiduciary financial professionals. The professionals that agree to follow those practices, that agree in writing, put themselves in a higher liability position and a higher position of trust for their clients. And I would recommend that anyone who's getting advice from a financial professional or from multiple professionals, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, you want to have at least one fiduciary on your team, because that's a person that you can trust is putting your interests ahead of the interests of themselves and their firm.
Is there, in addition to the US, do you have any suggestions for Canada or international?
I think if you look at those 10 best practices,
Okay.
you can take those questions, and they're on the website of the Institute for Fiduciary Standard in the
Okay.
US. You can take those 10 questions and you can ask them of your financial professional. And if your financial professional says, yes, I can do those 10 things for you, then you're good. You're in an even better place if your financial professional will sign a document committing to it, but that's unlikely. Their firm might not let them do that.
Mm. And why is that? Why would they not be allowed or to do that?
Because it creates additional liability for them.
Mm. And when you talked about these financial firms, what
Yes.
do you feel that has been this kind of disconnect for the last while, that there is, like, from my perspective, and maybe I'll before I go ask the question, I'll share my perspective, is, shouldn't the financial sector, from my perspective again, create utmost transparency, utmost honesty, utmost opportunity, so that it benefits most or all people, like, so that there's an opportunity to win, and those that are also regulating or being stewards, should there be an even more responsibility to be there for the people, by the people? And do you think that there has been a gap in the past, and is there an opportunity now that you're seeing to really bring that closer together, so even more people on a global standard can raise their levels of uh, abundance by
Yes.
stewarding this as leaders and then moving forward? What are your thoughts here?
Look, first I will say that there are good companies, a small number, you need to work hard to find them, and there's a larger number of good people in bad companies. right? The companies that are not aligned and they're not, ready to present themselves as fiduciaries formally. But there is a long history of being aware of the problem. So in the late 30s, there were a large number of financial professionals that would position themselves towards their clients as financial advisors, when in fact what they were doing was distributing financial securities and being paid by the companies that were issuing the securities. So they were getting paid from both sides. And while they were saying that they were advisors, they were really distributors of securities. And that was their main source of income, and that was their main line of business. And the SEC noticed this, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, and Congress created the 1940 Investment Advisors Act. And effectively, it said, if you want to position yourself as an investment advisor and use the word advisor in your title, you need to take on a fiduciary level of commitment, responsibility, and liability. Now, guess how many times that title has been, the misuse of that title has been prosecuted by the SEC in the last 84 years?
Thousands.
Zero.
Oh,
There has been a lot of misuse, a lot of financial professionals who position themselves as advisors when they are not fiduciaries, and the SEC has never gone after them. What the SEC is doing instead, because it's more convenient for them, is they are relying on disclosure and say, if you have a conflict of interest, you need to disclose it. And then if you disclose it, it's okay. This is not what the act requires, but this is their interpretation of how they want to enforce this act. They say, okay, create papers that you can send to your prospects and your clients that disclose all of your conflicts of interest, and then you're good to go. And the clients receive, documents that are 20 to 70 pages long that disclose all the risks and all the conflicts of interest. And now that you're back to this situation where you have an expert party dealing with someone that they think is fully informed because they've given them 70 pages of legal documents, but they have not accepted the fiduciary responsibility, and they've even positioned themselves as advisors without being fiduciaries, and the SEC has essentially turned a blind eye to it. So we're aware of the problem. There's legislation in place to stop the problem since 1940. It's never been correctly enforced, I'm sorry to tell you.
Please don't apologize. It's, although pretty alarming, we can do better. I do believe
Yes,
that. I do believe that. I do believe we can step into an even more responsible role as a greater team to focus on what we can do to bring these levels of alignment and combine a more harmonic and thoughtful disagreement,
yes,
dissonant musical intelligence to allow more cultivation of moving forward faster. And I believe that the experience of all of this is what gives us the ability to actually stand on the shoulders of those that thought they may have been doing right, and like you said, have been positioned in misaligned companies. But then now, the more that we know, it's like, what do we choose to do with it? What do we
right,
choose to apply as a team, and how do we actually cultivate those leaders and leadership so that we can move forward faster alongside each other? And I believe that that's obviously what you're doing, as a community with Tiger 21 and YPO, so that there is a more aligned approach towards a shared mission in some way, shape, or form. So I imagine that there is an ethos that you follow within yourself by being this way. And so tell us a little bit about how you're integrating that ethos within CWB Partners, and what it is that, as a fiduciary yourself, and really creating this outstanding level of alignment for yourself and others, and also then coaching others, what is it that gets you up every single day wanting to do better and do more and do even more in this industry, that gets you really passionately focused on this?
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking. Look, I'm very grateful to be where I am today. My career was not planned, but it turned out to follow a path of learning across multiple dimensions, ethical dimensions, technical dimensions, um, client relationship dimensions that put me in a position now to be really helpful to the families that I serve, and of course to my own family and my friends and my community. And I enjoy serving. And I enjoy a servant leadership role as a chair in Tiger 21 and in some of my other philanthropic work, working in support of education and financial literacy, as you mentioned before. I feel very lucky. I'm trying to take these concepts that in some ways are philosophical and make them very practical. I've created a framework for my business that I call the Family Voice Framework. The idea is that every letter of the word voice is a different layer for a family to think about as they're building their long-term wealth plan. And the idea is that each family has a unique voice, and even each member of the family has a unique voice. And how do we listen to these voices and make progress together, move forward towards common goals together and towards distinct goals of each family member. And just to give you the highlight of how this all comes together, each letter of voice, V is vision and values, right? What is your vision? And have you done the introspection to say, where do you want to go? What are your values? And have you listened to the vision and values of the other people that you're working with, whether it's in your business, in your family, in your community, and have you kind of made that a formal part, an explicit part of your process? Because the vision and values are the North Star. They will drive all of your other decisions about who to hire, who to fire, which way to go, whether it's financially or non-financially. So V is vision and values. O is organization. Organization has two aspects to it. There's legal regulatory structures and entities that can be created to manage a business or family's assets in an optimal way. And then there's the organization of the team. Who's on the team? And what are their roles and responsibilities? And what's the communication? What's the update process? And what's the governance and decision-making process? So that's the O layer. I is investments and impact. And there's many layers below that, sub-layers below that, as you can imagine. C is controls. What are we putting in place to give ourselves a confidence that the assets are where they're supposed to be and are doing what they're supposed to be doing to support the larger goals of the family? And E is education and engagement. And it really should be first. It's what we're doing on the podcast today. But we wouldn't have such a nice acronym if we put education and engagement first. So we saved the best for last.
I love it. And I imagine that's what creates that circular economy anyways, that circular impact, right? Is because
Yes.
as a result of going through all the vision, the organization, the investments, the controls, you then can give back because you can then, as a result, pay it forward to the next generation. And that's what you're doing right now. You're sharing your wisdom with the next generation, well, myself and
Yes.
others. And so this is a beautiful application that you've integrated in real time, that I'm grateful for, because there's a lot of people, and I'll tell you from my own map of the world is uh, I was I was very unaware about a lot of things when it came to fiduciary wealth, finance, going to university for accounting and finance, and still playing a game that was really, from my perspective with hindsight, um, very limited. I felt limited. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't here to play and uh, a bigger game because I was constantly projected limitations. And, that comes from some form of also uh, family trauma and experiences from, traveling from Poland during that time, and the way that things had been happening over the course of the generations. So I realized over the course of that time that, I needed to take more responsibility in some way. So I kept asking myself, what can I do better? And,
Yes.
I didn't know what I didn't know, what I wanted to ask. Like you, I was, very curious, or I am, not iOS, but uh, very curious of wanting to do better consistently, and seeing where I'm willing to take responsibility, or I'm choosing to. And and I believe that this literacy, this financial literacy of what really cultivates trauma in the families is for youth like myself, uh is so meaningful, because you can hear it, in the family, or we're not paying attention sometimes to what we're saying as adults, and there's children in the room, but they hear everything.
Yes.
They're listening to all of this trauma, these pains that are coming through the parents when it comes to problems with finance and wealth, and situations that are uh, being challenged because they don't know that they don't know. And so when they're observing, they end up taking on this trauma. And if they don't have the strength, like you described from Jay Hughes, the social, the intellectual, the spiritual, and the human capital, they will never get to that financial capital. Because from my experience, this is what I needed to learn: is if in a household that was always struggling, it it gave, even though the feeling of family when it was time to about being an abundance of love, and like the family is like all of that was there. But as soon as the conversation of finance came up, it was always something that was traumatic. It was a pain,
Mm. Yes. It's hard to talk about.
you know and so I'm curious, when it comes to this financial literacy, how are you with Wise, and what you're doing there, integrating that from voice and CWB part, and then integrating that also with some of the things that you're doing with youth and the next generation YPO and things like this. Because by the way, I'm grateful that you're doing it, but I just would love to know a little bit more if anybody is curious, because I am.
No, thank you. We have many programs in my not-for-profit organization working in support of education. And if anyone's in town in New York on October 9th and would like to learn more about them, let me know, and I'll get you, into our gala dinner. Um, One of the largest programs is a financial literacy program that serves teachers and kids, high school students in 750 high schools around the country, mostly in underprivileged areas, schools, that are below the line, where they get free lunches and other support. Not every state, we're in 49 states, not every state in this country requires financial literacy to graduate from high school. So that's something we're working on as well from a policy perspective, because it's such an important tool of modern life to know financial literacy, to know that you should pay your credit card off every month and not get charged 24% interest, because at some point, the interest is costing you more than the initial things you purchased are costing you. To understand mortgages, to understand tax-free savings plans like 401k plans and individual retirement accounts, and all of the opportunities you have, to save and to grow step by step. And what we find is that in those states that don't require this, there are very courageous and forward-thinking principals and teachers and administrators in the schools who say, it's not required, but we need this. So we need to make time for this, and we need to learn this. And our group creates the materials and the certifications and the tests and celebrates the 100 top high schools in finance in the country, and we offer support to these teachers. But those are the real heroes, right? Because they're kind of fighting against the current and really doing something special for the kids, who then will bring it back to their siblings and to their parents in some cases and say, hey, you need to be financially literate out there, and you need to make your finances work for you, not against you, because the system may or may not be there to help you, as we discussed before. So we've got to equip our young people with the tools to kind of stand on their own feet, as I was always encouraged by my parents to stand on my own feet. Let's really pay that forward. And we're in 750 schools. I wish we were in 7,500. But we've
Let's make
already
it happen.
impacted the lives of more than 1 million kids, and it's really satisfying work, Eric.
Brother, this is what we're here for, is to cultivate the next generation and
Yes.
to amplify so that they I always say, it's like, how can we leave every relationship, every person, every experience, every like every space that we walk into better than when we found it? And ultimately, how
Yes.
can we leave our lives behind better than when we found them? How can we leave our home behind, which is our planet, better than when we found them, so that our next generations can thrive with persistence, grace, and glory, versus these limitations that have been perceived by the predecessors? And so I believe that we're here to cultivate and create a parallel, even better system. I have one last question, because I know we got to go. Well, I have two. First of all, where's the best way that, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to connect with you, reach out to you, ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for support, ask for ways that they can work together?
Sure. Just check out the website, www.cwm-partners.com. And there's an info box there, and it'll get right to me.
Love it. Amazing. And I'll post that in the show notes.
Sure.
So I've actually, yeah. So what do you think of, what's your feeling on Bitcoin?
It's an experiment.
I love
And
it.
it's a brilliant experiment. Brilliant, dazzling experiment. Extremely volatile. I'm fascinated by it. I don't have any recommendation of it. I got in, I got out, and I'm still a fascinated observer.
I love it. If you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
Be with my family and my friends, gather everyone together, and enjoy each other.
Brother, I feel like we've really come together for a very meaningful purpose, and I'm excited to discuss deeper in depth, in private and in public and everywhere we go. But I just want to ultimately thank you for your time, because I know it's our most precious resource.
Thank you, Eric. I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening to the Resilient Minds. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to go comment and like and follow us on iTunes or Spotify, and please make sure that if you really love this, to share this episode, and make sure that you're inviting all your friends to like it as we continue to unfold what the beauty of our minds does. More importantly, how powerful our heart level of intelligence can be when we combine our heart and our brain together. And more importantly, make sure you take the time to take a look at what we're doing at Balanced Media Ventures, and how we can actually really support you in doubling your impact, your income, and your influence, and how you can bring your life's greatest vision into your purpose and create it from that level of reality. Talk to you soon.